morning. It's the end of the week. As I always say on Fridays, you got to work twice as hard to get the same results because everyone's working half as hard. And I really do try to do this on a consistent basis when it comes to Fridays. So think about that for just a moment. What can you do today that can amp up or make more relevant actions in your day than you did yesterday or any time during the week? And how do you get that into your mind to where you're doing that more consistently? That's something that we all struggle with and we all need to figure out. So I'm here at home today, actually helping my wife hang some curtains. That's a kind of a complicated thing for me. I'm not much of a construction guy, but I am here helping out. So if you're new to the Morning Mindset, get a pen, get a notebook. We do these every morning that I'm in office, or even if I'm at the house here like I am today. And we try to get something going, try to learn something that we can apply to our day. So today, I'm going to go a little deeper. I have been talking a little bit about attention, focus, and being able to actually build your willpower towards the things that you're doing. And even though this subject's going to be a little bit deeper, let's just say, than normal today, this is a very important subject because it really kind of drives into a lot of what may be causing issues for us. One of the things that you guys hear me talk about as well is just the amount of actual energy that you have to generate a successful day or stay focused or do the things that you need to do. And we've had a lot of conversations about that. How do you get into that state? How do you stay in that state? How do you stay successful in a given day? Well, I'm a very big fan of depth psychology. So if you guys are familiar with Carl Jung, all of you are to some degree. You've heard of the terms extrovert, introvert, and possibly analytical psychology. Carl Jung affected the psychology industry very, very directly. And it's still, even though he's been gone for a number of years, a very large part of what is even studied in college these days concerning becoming a professional in the field. Well, he brought something up, and I read a lot of his books, but he brought something up that really affected me at one particular time. And a lot of the reason why is because of potentially the lack of control we have over certain parts of losing energy or losing focus or losing our ability to get the things done that we're trying to get done, because we've always got this conscious idea of taking action and being successful. And we're consistently on a daily basis, if we're trying to be successful in our businesses, setting ourselves up, giving ourselves coaching, being direct about what it is that we're trying to accomplish, putting goals down. What do I want to get done by the end of the day? And then usually what happens as you go through the course of the day, things start to come back into your habitual environment. You slow down at certain times, a lot of times at the same times. You have the same kind of, I'll call them fears, the same kind of doubts that consistently kind of attack you a little bit during the day. And very infrequently do we get into a position where by the end of the day, we were exactly as focused as we want to be. And even if we do have like a solid day where, and many of you have this happens to be a lot where I'm like, man, I really got a lot done today. You're really proud of what you did. And then over a period of time, your habits or your psychology starts to slow things down, bring your doubts back. There's all these things that happen. So while we're being trained as young people, as we become adults, we develop what we call the complexes. And so even though this is a bit of a deep subject, I kind of want to get into it because I think it'll be very, very helpful for many of you that are trying to be productive and trying to become successful and may not have found that traction yet, where your weeks are still looking very similar, even though you've got the gumption to operate and you really want to get things done. Somehow you keep getting dragged down. Excuse me. What's happening is there's internal, even subconscious activities that are stealing energy from you. And it's important to know that this is something in a lot of ways you can't control without a proper analysis of what they may be. And so I want to give you guys a little bit of depth today. Maybe you can take this over the weekend and really start thinking about this personally. Maybe on Saturday you can get out a notebook and start writing a few things down that you think you may be suffering from as far as it's concerned. So this comes from the Center of Applied Jungian Studies. I'm going to just read this to you. Well, first we'll start at the top. So you need to recover your energy and reconcile your emotional complexes. Now, that obviously is something that in whatever language you use in self-dialogue, we're constantly dealing with, right? Oh man, I got to stop acting like this. I got to stop feeling this way. I've got to get my willpower up. We're always having this self-coaching going on. But I want to explain to you something that is still very viable in psychology and extremely viable for people that want to get into a high-performance environment and really change the way they're dealing with things in their life so that they can become more successful at the things they do. So complexes have a strong emotional content. They present as powerful feeling, tone, thoughts, and emotions. They usually accompany a somatic effect in the body. The power they hold is directly related to how primal the psychic depository experience was. Because we are initially unaware of their powerful effects, a complex can take control of our consciousness. So if you get into Tony Robbins at all, or even some of the stuff that we teach at the DNA of Success, there's this condition where you're getting into a state. And Tony Robbins talks about how that state is physical. It's a physical state. Right, you actually feel it in your body. It's not just something that you get your mind into. It's like a full engagement. Your whole physiology is involved in it. Well, there's also many other things going on in your mind all the time that are affecting the way your body experiences things. And so, whenever you have a moment when you're over emotional about something, or you're feeling very doubtful about certain things, you can pay attention to your body. Your body will actually change its state, right? You'll notice when you're feeling down about things, or if you're not clear about something, or if you're feeling doubts, that your shoulders are even slumped forward a little bit. You'll notice your physiology change. And so it's important to understand that you've got to work through things with your body too. Your body and your mind have to be in the same state. And as it states here, because we are initially unaware of the powerful effects, the complex can take control of our consciousness. Now, realize that the word complex that's being used here isn't necessarily a negative connotation, because we've got positive complexes too, right? As we build ourselves up, as we have success, as we make more phone calls, as we get better on the phones, we're building a complex of our psychology that's actually helping us or benefiting us. And we're feeling that in our body, we're feeling that in our consciousness. And so this could be a healthy thing. So Jung said every complex holds a nuclear element, the core which presents beyond the conscious will. The meaning we make of this source depends on our personal disposition and experience. As a potential disturbance, depending on its emotional charge, it has the potential to act as an actual disturbance in the psyche. If it resists the intent of ego consciousness and splits off, it presents as a separate controlling entity. For this reason, Jung said, complexes have us. So I'm going to break this down a little bit so that it's more understandable. When we have experience through life and we have things in our past that were negative, things in our past that have caused us to overthink a tremendous amount, trauma, right, grief, losing people in our life, all of these things start to build up this nucleus within us. When we're talking about a nucleus, you want to think about one end of that nucleus being in your conscious mind, your thinking mind, and the back side of that nucleus being in your unconscious mind. Okay, and again, I apologize for being so deep today, but I really want you guys to understand this and think this through. So what ends up happening is if we don't deal with reconciling things that we've had in our past, or our opinions about the future tend to be colored or controlled by things that we're not even consciously aware of. That's why you can get up and you can be very, very ready to go. You've got your day going, you've got your goals, 10 minutes into making phone calls, 2 minutes into making phone calls even sometimes, your habits that you've formed over time, or these complexes that you've formed over time, they start surfacing, right? Your doubts start surfacing. It's not like you have a set of doubts on the left and a set of principles for success on the right, and you're saying, okay, I don't want the doubts to show up, but they surface. So you're in the middle of taking action, and you're in a certain state, and then your body state changes and your mind comes in. You guys ever notice that sometimes you'll feel a certain way, negative mostly in this perspective, and then suddenly the thoughts about that negativity come up, right? And so this is stealing your energy. Okay, that's the biggest thing to understand, is keeping it simple, is when you don't have a reconciliation of the complexes that you have in your psyche, and I'm not saying run out there and meet with a psychologist, maybe you should, but when you've got this experience that you're going through where your energy is getting stolen, and you'll feel it, right? When this negative complex comes up, or this set of thoughts end up kind of coming into your mind, you will feel it actually steal your energy, because the complex itself requires a tremendous amount of energy to hold. Okay, so when a complex in your psyche or a negative experience that's stopping you and giving you doubts and not allowing you to move forward in your day shows up, you'll even notice your energy starts to get drained, because the complex itself requires a tremendous amount of effort in order to hold. So by reconciling your complexes, by thinking things through that you've had in negative experiences, whether that be in sales, whether that be in starting a business, in your family, in your past as a child, whatever it might be, by focusing these things and working through them to take the energy back from them, okay, you neutralize them. And one of the ways that is done, again, I'm not a psychologist, but one of the ways this is done is by focusing some period of time away from the desk to think about the energy that you're losing and what's causing you to lose it, and thinking it through until you can disempower it, take the energy back from it. Because it's not like you suddenly don't have memory anymore. You, of course, are going to remember everything that you remember. And it's just very, very important to understand that if you feel stuck and you're very, very focused on becoming a successful person and doing things the right way in your life, well, and you're not getting there and you're constantly frustrated with it, even if you're trying really hard, that you may have to sit back a little bit and look at what's taking your energy from you. Okay, what's taking it away. So, because it's not just always conscious. Most of the time, especially if it's traumatic, this sits and works in our unconscious mind, waiting for our body to enter into a certain level of physiology where it can bring it back into our conscious mind and cause us to carry too much weight. Okay, so if you're dealing with a lot of complexes, you're carrying too much weight. You've got to build new complexes, all right, meaning that you're successful. Like, to give an example of a highly powerful complex, quote unquote, of nucleus, think about Bruce Lee. He has trained his body, he's trained his mind, and so he's so trained that a lot of times he can act faster than his nervous system acts. There's a lot of studies that have been done on this, and with him in particular, where his response is so automated that it's faster than the nervous system was even able to actually attempt. And there's a book called Energy Medicine and Human Dynamics that you may want to read. It's very, very interesting, kind of talking about a lot of this stuff. Well, that's a positive complex. There's a number of things that have been going on in his life, training himself, constantly being engaged, staying in state, that's allowed him to build that positive complex. But that could be in a war against all of the other negative complexes that are there stealing his energy, and he wouldn't have anywhere near as much mastery, right? So it's super important to realize that you can't just improve everything that you're doing in your life and think that that by itself is going to propel you into a state of being successful and high performance. You've also got to look at what's stealing your energy, okay? And so, again, I'm not a psychologist, but hopefully this gives you guys a little bit of depth, a little bit of thought that you can kind of go through this week. And, of course, we're not going to go this deep every mindset. Once in a while I think we will if I think it's an advantage. But this is huge. So I'm just going to read this through again. So complexes have a strong emotional content. They present as powerful feeling-toned thoughts and emotions. They usually accompany a somatic effect in the body. The power they hold is directly related to how primal the psychic depository experience was, because we are initially unaware of their powerful effects, a complex can take control of our consciousness. So it can take control of the way we see our day, that we're going to be successful, I'm going to make this day happen. Well, all of a sudden there's this even potentially more powerful energy that comes in from some negative experience that we may have had. All right. So Jung said every complex holds a nuclear element, the core that which presents beyond the conscious will. The meaning we make of this source depends on our personal disposition and experience. As a potential disturbance, depending on its emotional charge, it has a potential to act as an actual disturbance in the psyche. If it resists the intent of ego consciousness, again, now ego consciousness, for those of you that are into Eastern thought, there's a really big difference between Western ego and Eastern ego, right? In the East, they talk about the ego being this negative thing that we've got to overcome. In the West, especially when you're looking at things from the psychological point of view, that's the point. That's the part of yourself that is resilient to your environment. It's your conscious ego. It's, you know, someone can have an overextended ego per se, and that's a lot of times when we say, oh man, that guy's got such a big ego, right? But what it is it's that part of yourself that's resilient to your environment. Okay, very different definition in East and West. In fact, they probably shouldn't even be calling it the same thing to a degree. And so it's that part of you that drives for success, right? That's what that is. So as a potential disturbance, depending on its emotional charge, it has the potential to act as an actual disturbance in the psyche. It is, if it resists the intent of the ego consciousness and splits off, it presents as a separate controlling entity. For this reason, Jung said, complexes have us. So think about this for just a moment. If we're talking about a healthy ego, okay, that part of us that drives forward to be successful in the environment that we are, the one that responds to the environment. And we're fortifying that with good words. We're doing it with good habits. We're getting up at 6 o'clock in the morning. We're, you know, getting our confidence up. We're staying positive. All of these things that build this healthy perspective of how we're going to deal with our environment. Well, there's complexes that come in that are as powerful, in some ways even more powerful than everything you can possibly do to get ready to be successful for your day. So that causes a lot of frustration for us because, man, we were ready, but I don't know why it happened. But 11 o'clock, you know, my body just kind of started dipping a little bit. I started having these bad thoughts again. I don't know how to get rid of them. Well, it's because the complexes themselves, they tend to be as powerful, sometimes even more powerful than our personal perspective on being successful. So you have to work through them. There's no choice. You have to figure out how everything that's been stealing your energy can be opened up and released. You have to think them through. You have to change the way you see them, okay? And again, depth today, everybody. So hopefully this wasn't confusing for you. I just felt it was valuable, something that you may be able to kind of take into your weekend. And, you know, what are your complexes? Can you write down that which causes your doubt? If you're feeling doubt about one thing or another, can you reconcile that back to a period of time where that may have been developed sometime in the past? Because it's stealing your energy. It's taking your ability away to actually have a healthy relationship with your environment and be successful. All right, so let's have a good day, everyone. Again, Friday, we got to work twice as hard to get the same results. So love to see you guys get out there and really hammer it today, and I hope you have an incredible weekend. I will talk to you again on Monday.